I still remember the smell of burning diesel and torn soil when I came over that hill. The same hill my great-grandfather used to stand on every morning and saw bulldozers cutting straight through my wheat fields. My family's land, gone. 15,000 acres of history, gone. The HOA had forged my signature while I was overseas and sold every inch to a development company. For a few seconds, I couldn't even breathe. It felt like the ground itself was falling out from under me. I wasn't supposed to be here that day. I was supposed to be home. 6 months working in Singapore. And I had dreamed every night of seeing that Colorado sunrise, of brushing my horse's mane, of hearing nothing but wind. But what I came home to was a construction site. Orange flags everywhere. Men in hard hats, yelling over engines. I slammed on my brakes so hard the truck fishtailed. One guy with a clipboard looked up, already annoyed. When I demanded to know what the hell he was doing on my land, he smirked, said, "Sorry, buddy, this isn't yours anymore. HOA approved the sale last month." He handed me a folder, all official with county seals, and right there was my signature, except it wasn't mine. Someone had copied it. My hands shook so bad I could barely hold the papers. I told him it was fake, but he just shrugged. Take it up with the HOA. I drove straight to the HOA president's house. A woman named Diana Moore. Picture every arrogant, power, drunk suburban queen you've ever met, multiplied by 10. Her home office looked like a corporate showroom. Glass desk, manicured nails, fake smile. She slid some papers toward me, her voice sweet and poisonous. "Mr. Blackwell, this sale was perfectly legal. Your grandfather signed over land management rights decades ago. You signed the power of attorney." I leaned forward, my voice shaking. "That's not my signature." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. "Then maybe you shouldn't make accusations you can't prove. That could be considered slander." That's when I realized she wasn't just a bad neighbor. She was a predator. I called my mom in Arizona that night. She's 70, has arthritis, but still remembers every detail of our family's history. When I told her what happened, she went quiet, then said, "Your father warned me about them. Check his old office, the shed by the barn. There's a safe under the floor." I tore through that shed like a madman, found the safe, and opened it with my birthday code. Inside were land deeds and tax records, but the folder labeled HOA agreements was empty. Someone had already been there. Someone who knew exactly what to take. I went to the next HOA meeting anyway, hoping to talk sense into people. Instead, I walked into an ambush. Diana was at the front, smiling like a CEO. She had half the neighborhood convinced this development would make everyone rich. I tried explaining about the forgery, but people avoided eye contact, muttering about economic benefits. When I said I'd be getting a lawyer, she laughed. "Security, please escort Mr. Blackwell out." That was the moment I realized this wasn't just about land, it was about power. The next morning, I called an old college friend, Olivia James, one of the best real estate lawyers in the state. She showed up before sunrise with 2 coffees and 0 patience for injustice. We spread every document across my kitchen table. Cross, checking dates, clauses, and stamps until midnight. Then she found it. One sentence buried in a 1960s HOA covenant. The HOA could only sell land not being used for agriculture. I was still growing wheat and raising cattle. That alone made their sale illegal. That spark of hope felt like oxygen after drowning. We dug deeper. I called another old contact, Ryan Keller, an IT guy I used to work with. Within hours, he'd hacked into the HOA server. What he found made my stomach turn. Emails between Diana, her lawyer Gregory, and a developer named Thomas Wilson. They'd been plotting this for 3 years. Even worse, Diana used to work for that same developer. She'd bribed the county judge to approve the forged documents. The next morning, a restraining order was taped to my door, saying I wasn't allowed to harass HOA members. Security guards patrolled my own ranch roads. I started getting cold stares from neighbors. Nobody wanted to talk. One old man whispered to me at the gas station, "She runs this place like a little kingdom. You're not the first she's tried to crush." That night, sitting in my father's dusty shed, I stared at the old family photo, 4 generations of Blackwells standing in front of our home. My hands were trembling, and for a moment, I honestly thought about walking away. Maybe they'd win. Maybe the system was too rotten to fight. I whispered to that photo, "Dad, what would you do?" The silence answered me, "You fight smart, son, not angry, smart." When Olivia came by the next morning, I told her I was done being the victim. That's when she showed me a legal clause that changed everything. The Colorado Land Act of 1963 required HOAs to renew property registrations every 10 years, if they failed. The land automatically reverted to county control, meaning anyone could legally purchase it at auction. And guess what? The Pine Creek HOA hadn't filed renewals since 2015. Diana had skipped it to dodge taxes. That meant every house, every cul-de-sac in her precious neighborhood was technically unregistered land. We confirmed it at the county clerk's office, and I'll never forget the look on that old clerk's face when he said, "Well, sir, looks like this HOA doesn't legally own a single blade of grass." Diana must have heard about our visit because later that afternoon she cornered me in the parking lot, her voice dripping venom. "You're making a huge mistake. Ethan, you have no idea who you're dealing with." I didn't answer, just smiled and walked away. From that day, everything flipped. Rumors spread. Neighbors started texting me privately, saying they were sick of her dictatorship. Olivia and I worked through nights, filing for a county reclamation auction under a company name Ryan helped set up, Blackwell Family Holdings, LLC. When the county processed the paperwork, the whole HOA residential district went on auction for $1. I placed the bid. Nobody else even knew it was happening. Overnight, I legally owned every house Diana thought she ruled. The morning the notices went out was pure poetry. I watched from the ridge through binoculars as process servers knocked on doors across the neighborhood, handing out papers. Diana stumbled out in her robe, yelling at one of them. Thomas Wilson called me, practically screaming through the phone. "What the hell is going on? Some guy just told me I owe you rent," I said. "Feels different when someone takes your land, doesn't it?" By noon, every resident knew what had happened. News trucks parked outside the HOA sign. Olivia stood before the cameras, explaining how the HOA's negligence voided their own authority. The very organization that was supposed to protect homeowners, she said, failed to register their own properties legally. Mr. Blackwell now owns them all. Diana tried to spin it, held an emergency meeting in her house. She called me a thief, screamed that I exploited a loophole. But the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. People shouted questions. Why didn't you tell us about the missing renewals? Where did the development money go? For the first time, she had no control. Thomas tried to intimidate me outside, puffed up his chest and hissed, "You've made a powerful enemy. I'll destroy you." Olivia stepped between us, calm as ever. "You just made a threat in front of a dozen witnesses. I suggest you walk away." And for once, he did. But that night, my house got broken into, my desk drawers ransacked, my laptop gone. They thought they'd stolen my evidence. What they didn't know was that Ryan had set up hidden cameras, upgraded security. Every move was recorded. When we watched the footage, there it was, Gregory Parker, the HOA lawyer, rummaging through my stuff at 2:37 a.m., clear as day. We handed it straight to the police. By evening, Gregory was in handcuffs, charged with breaking and entering, obstruction, and fraud. His arrest blew the whole conspiracy open. Investigators found emails, payments, everything tying him, Diana, and the judge to the forged sale. 2 days later, the community called an emergency meeting. Residents voted no confidence in Diana, unanimously. She showed up anyway, trying to shout over them, but halfway through, 2 deputies walked in and cuffed her. She screamed about how she built this neighborhood, how no one would have homes without her. Cameras caught it all. It went viral before sunset. Thomas Wilson's company tanked within weeks. The SEC opened an investigation into his real estate schemes. Judge Sullivan was suspended pending bribery charges. The whole rotten pyramid collapsed. I didn't celebrate. I just stood on my porch, watching the sunset over those fields they'd tried to steal, and finally felt something I hadn't in months. Peace. When the dust settled, I called another meeting, but this time not as a victim. I told the residents I was creating a community land trust, something that would protect both my ranch and their homes. They could buy back their properties at fair value or join the trust, which would ban all future development without 90% community approval. Most of them joined. They wanted out of the nightmare Diana had built. A week later, the county formally dissolved the HOA. The land was restored. The bulldozed field sprouted green again. Diana ended up sentenced to community service. Poetic, really, picking up trash along the same roads that once led to my ranch. Gregory went to prison. Thomas vanished from the headlines, his fortune bleeding out through lawsuits. One afternoon, a reporter from New York called. They wanted to run a story. The rancher who beat the HOA. I told them, this isn't about revenge. It's about reminding people you can't bully someone who knows the rules better than you. Now, sometimes I walk the ridge where I first saw those bulldozers, the breeze cold and clean again, the land quiet. There's no cheering, no applause, just the kind of silence that feels earned, the silence of knowing justice didn't come easy. But it came. And if there's one thing I learned from all this, it's simple. Power only controls you until you learn how to read the fine print.